A very good morning to our listeners. Hope you all had a great evening. A quick look at where we're trading then as we head in toward the North American Open. Bund futures are trading higher, somewhat following suit then from the overnight uptick in treasuries, which have continued the ascent following that FOMC announcement last night. And they kept things pretty much identical to where we were in December. They didn't outline any specific time to when this treasury buying is going to end, and as such that has underpinned a lot of the yields falling in the US. As such then, with the Bund opening high, it has continued to move upwards. This has come on the back of some touted month-end flows, today being the last trading day of the month. And month-end extensions in Europe seem slightly larger than average. Another factor as well has been that we've had quite a lot of European supply this week, however none today, as well as the US Treasury having already cleared their 2, 5 and 7 year notes, again clearing the slate somewhat and giving a bit of impetus to the upside for both the 10-year and Bund futures. Couple that as well with a generally weaker equity market so far here in Europe. This comes after a number of large cap companies have reported worse than expected earnings. Santander, the Spanish bank, they're seen down around 2.5% after poor numbers. AstraZeneca have traded down heavily as well in the pharmaceutical space after their corporate earnings. One in particular as well that's worth mentioning is Crédit Agricole. Le Figaro, the French newspaper, has suggested the company could take a goodwill impairment charge. The size of that is not known and the company has declined to comment thus far, but nonetheless their shares have traded down as much as 5%. Only Deutsche Bank is bucking the trend in the banking space. This has come despite their worse than expected numbers. It seems to be the comments from their co-CEO that the fact is that they're positioning themselves for a better state in terms of their capital base going forward, and that the charges taken this time round were to facilitate that move going forward, so their shares actually moving higher. On the banking note as well, as financials are the worst performing in Europe, we have had comments out of Enria, who's the head of the EBA in Europe, who has suggested they're mulling over further stress tests. However, no definitive timeline has been issued as yet. So something which could garner some attention later when the US come in. Taking a look in terms of other things that we have seen, we've had a couple of data points. German retail sales this morning were particularly disappointing. However, their employment situation did come out slightly better than expected, but the data not really having much of a lasting impact on the markets thus far. And looking ahead toward the US session, we'll be looking out for the likes of the weekly jobs data and also the Chicago PMI as two of the highlights. That pretty much concludes the opening wrap for me here in Europe. So for the time being, I wish you all a great trading day.